Hi, my name is Yann Harel, and I will present this project which is about decoding the neural correlates of sustained attention using MEG and supervised learning. But first, what is sustained attention? It is a cornerstone ability of human cognition, and it is involved in most daily activities such as driving a car, listening to a conversation, or even following a talk. It can be defined as the ability to maintain attentional focus over time and to resist distraction. Sustained attention is thought to be subtended by frontomedial theta, which supports the monitoring of attentional resources and which regulates gamma and alpha activity over sensorimotor regions via phase synchronization. More specifically, gamma activity in task-relevant regions, gamma activity will promote excitation of task-relevant regions, while alpha activity will promote inhibition of task-irrelevant regions. A recent line of research focused on moment-to-moment fluctuations in sustained attention performance. To do so, variations in reaction times during rhythmic tasks can be used to continuously monitor the attentional state. And using this technique, we can distinguish between periods of optimal and suboptimal performance. Optimal performance, or in-the-zone periods, are associated with low variability of reaction times and are less error-prone. However, errors that appear during these optimal periods are thought to be caused by mind wandering. On the other hand, suboptimal performance, or out-of-the-zone periods, are associated with highly variable reaction times and are generally more error-prone. In these states, errors are thought to be caused by inefficient resources allocation. To study the fluctuations of sustained attention performance, Esterman and colleagues developed a variation of the continuous performance tasks that they called the gradual continuous performance task. In this task, stimuli would gradually transition from one to another, and the subject was instructed to respond when a frequent stimulus was present, and to withhold from responding when a rare stimuli was presented. When looking at the trials preceding an error, an attentional lapse, these authors found that errors were preceded by an increase of activity within the DMN regions and a decrease of activity within the DAN and PPA regions. However, when distinguishing between errors that were caused in the zone or out of the zone, we see that this pattern clearly dissociates, and during in the zone periods, the errors were caused mainly by an increase of DMN activity, while during out of the zone periods, errors were preceded by a decrease in DAN and PPA activity. So in our study, we intend to uncover the oscillatory correlates of fluctuations in sustained attention performance. And we can pose the hypothesis that the correlates of attentional regulation vary between in and out of the zone periods as reflected by theta, alpha, and gamma band activity. So to perform this experiment, we invited 32 neurotypical subjects to our MEG laboratory, in which they performed 6 runs of 8 minutes of the GradCPT task. We computed the variance time course of reaction times by first ignoring errors, so commission and omission errors, and computing the subject mean and standard deviations on the remaining trials. We normalized the reaction times using these two values, and we took the absolute value of this variance time course. Finally, we interpolated all missing values in order to obtain a continuous curve. We filtered this curve to get smoother variations, and finally we applied a median split to distinguish between in and out of the zone periods. Looking at behavioral data, we can see that the lapse rate was lower during in the zone than out of the zone periods, and as well as the omission error rate. When looking at the reaction times preceding an error, we see that it was higher during in the zone periods, but reaction times preceding correct omissions of rare stimuli was actually lower during in the zone period than out of the zone. Now, to study the oscillation, the difference in oscillations between these two conditions, we segmented our signal from 400 to 1200 milliseconds after the start of apparition of a stimulus, which corresponds basically to the period where the stimulus was mostly present on screen. And we only focused on baseline trials, which is frequent trials for which the subject gave an answer. We performed t-tests and linear discriminant analysis classifications for which significance was assessed using permutation tests. So this is the results of the t-test that were conducted on averaged trials, so with n equals 32 and and this is the result of the single trial classification that was conducted on the same two conditions. We can see, looking at the alpha activity, we can see a clear increase of activity that was discriminant enough to classify trials of in and out periods. And we also see a pattern of high gamma activity. More specifically, alpha activity will tend to increase when in the zone, while gamma activity will tend to increase when out of the zone. And using this data on single trial classification, we were able to reach a significance, a decoding accuracy of nearly 52% for a big bi-class problem. So in conclusion, we saw an increase of posterior alpha during in the zone periods. So alpha synchronization was actually associated with optimal performance, and this result is coherent with the mind-wandering account of attentional lapses. However, this result challenges the idea that alpha power relates linearly to performance. More specifically, that the higher alpha power and the lower the performance, we actually can hypothesize that alpha power has a U-shaped relationship with performance, and this hypothesis will be tested within this dataset in further analysis. Additionally, we saw an increase of gamma activity during out-of-the-zone periods, which supports the idea that gamma activity is involved in attentional regulation and cortical excitation. Taken together, these results are consistent with models of sustained attention that integrate both mind-wandering and executive control failure accounts of attentional lapses. Thanks for your attention.